I'd like to now call the meeting of the Nelson City Council, April the 2nd, 2018, in order. This time I'd like to deliver the invocation. God, we give you the respect and acknowledge you as the creator and provider. As we begin this meeting, we ask that you would lead, guide, and direct this meeting so that it is full of wisdom and productivity and respect for one another. We ask that you would guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a successful meeting today. Lord, we help us to accomplish our goals while displaying your character. We ask that you renew our police force, our fire and rescue team, as well as our servicemen and women serving both here and overseas. We pray these things in your name. Amen. Mr. Coleman.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you should all have a copy of the agenda before you, or there any
Swearing in first.
Oh, sorry.
If you'll stand up here, please. You'll just raise your right hand. I'm going to read the oath out to you, and then at the end, if you'll say I will or I do to acknowledge your acceptance of the oath. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully perform the duties of council member of this city, and that you will support and defend the charter hereof, as well as the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia and the United States of America?
I do.
I'll have copies for him to sign after the meeting.
Oh, you want Tim to sign after me?
He can, if that's all right.
Okay.
Ready, Mary? Okay, you should all have a copy of the agenda for April's, the agenda approval for April the 2nd, 2018 before you. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I need to make an amendment. There's something that came up after I had sent the agenda out, so I want to add a 9E, property tax penalties and interest policy. If someone would make that motion for me, please.
I'll make a motion we add to the agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor? All right. Now, need the approval of the minutes for March the 5th, 2018 council meeting. Can I get a,
I'll make a motion to approve.
all in favor? Okay. Next on our agenda is department reports. I'll turn it over to Tina on at this time.
There we go.
Approval of minutes.
Should we, yeah, we have made a motion for to make the addition. Did you want to go ahead and make it to approve? Oh, no, we have to approve the minutes. Did we do that? Yeah, we did.
That's
that,
what we
didn't
just did.
I
Yeah.
thought we approved
Chad
the agenda.
seconded it this time, not you. We good?
I'm behind.
You made me second, yes. Okay, all right, Tina.
All right, financial report. There is a reconciled statement of revenues and expenditures ending February 28th, 2018 included in this report. There's also some out there in the lobby. Please review at your convenience. Ms. Burnell and I have been working on the fiscal year 2019 budget, which should be ready for its first presentation at the May 7th council meeting. Under maintenance, the start of mowing season has begun. Mr. Fawcett did some work on our tractor, which has allowed him to utilize the larger mower attachment, which works great on areas like Highway 5 and Kennesaw Avenue out toward the apple orchard. All it took was some new seals to stop the leaking, as well as some other small parts, and a machine that, when otherwise unused, is back up and running like new. He can do many things with this machine, and it makes it a lot easier rather than using the other one that has the bush hog attachment. Very scary to use, very dangerous, not sturdy at all. So he hates to use that, and now he doesn't have to because he has the other one up and working. So that's something that we'll address a little bit later on, maybe seeing if we can liquidate that piece of equipment. It's just not, it's not kind to use whatsoever. And with this other equipment, he can do the mowing and the bush hogging and some other things as well with it now that it's up and running. And we were told it didn't work, it didn't hold. It was just a couple of parts, loose seals, things like that just needed to be replaced, and it's working great. So, for example, Highway 5, all that mowing he does out there can take him up, normally the whole day when he goes up and gets it, and I think he got it done in under half a day. And that was just the first time out there getting used to it and getting the feel for how that machine works.
James brought that up previously too, about that sidearm. What do we need to do in order to get that on the agenda to discuss? Go ahead and look at it.
I can do that on the next agenda. I just want to make sure that it's, we have that situated and up and running and checked out before we decide to get rid of it. The dump truck is on its way to being fixed. They had the hunt for parts, which are still coming in, and once they're all in, we should be up and running with that as well. He was trying to get us used parts to save money. He was unable to find used parts, so he had to order new. That model truck is I would say rare, and I'm not talking about Barrett Jackson rare, just but rare enough to where it was a mad hunt for the parts. But now that we have the parts, we should be good to go on that. So that'll be good, having that dump truck option as well. As far as sanitation, the bills will be going out next week, along with the information for citywide dumpster days, which we will vote on later in the meeting. While most continue to pay on time, there are still some that are consistently receiving service suspensions before making payments. I'm not sure how to rectify this, but I'm looking into ways that we can cut down on this sort of thing. And if I come to some sort of reasonable conclusion, I'll bring it up at a future meeting for discussion. It's just frustrating to have someone get upset and angry, and over the weekend their trash isn't picked up and then they come pay it. So I'm trying to find a better way to. It's difficult, but like I said, the majority do pay one time. If they don't pay, quarterly, they come in and pay me faithfully every month, and that's all I ask, as long as they're paying on the trash service. Information on the May 7th, 2018 council meeting. We will be discussing the fiscal year 2019 budget, along with the possibility of the millage rate for Cherokee County if the documentation is received in time. As always, if there is anything that the council would like to see addressed, please let me know so that I can add it to the agenda. And one of those will be the sidearm mower. We'll put that on there. Project updates. Update on the road repair issue on Barrel Way. The pipes have been sealed. We are awaiting for the asphalt work to be done, which was delayed due to weather, as well as the supplier being closed down for maintenance. This project should be completed shortly, and I will update again at the next meeting. But they did make sure to seal the pipes, which was the problem. They climbed in there and sealed all the pipes up for us. Miscellaneous. I'm happy to say that the Easter egg hunt went very well. We had a large turnout, and the kids seemed to enjoy it, which is what really matters. The lodge is looking forward to partnering with the city on future endeavors, and I think that will go a long way to bringing a sense of community back to the city that has been missing for some time.
Great.
Received a lot of phone calls today, people thanking us and letting us know that that was great. It really meant a lot to them for us to participate in that and support it, things like that. So the mayor and I attended the Freeholm Precinct Town Hall that took place on March 20th at Revolution Church in Canton. I have to say that it was very educational, and that it was a great way for the deputies that work in our area of Cherokee County to reach out to the people that they serve. Sheriff Frank Reynolds even took some time out of his busy schedule to speak with the audience, as well as to answer some questions. I would highly recommend that everyone attend the next time that one is held, and I will be sure to share the information on the website and Facebook as I did this time around. I attended some training the third week of March, which were classes that count towards my state clerk certification. I learned a lot, and I look forward to completing my certification, which I will do, God willing, this June in Savannah. Keep in mind that this is a 4-year program that I will have completed in under a year and a half. It was a lot of hard work, but it was well worth it. It has allowed me to have the knowledge that I need to keep the city running and compliant with state mandates and codes. I want to thank the mayor and council for being so supportive of my desire to learn, to better myself, and most importantly, to better the city.
Thank you, Donna. Number 3. Lieutenant Simmons, I'd like to recognize you for your monthly report.
We had another quiet month last month.
Yeah.
Total 10 calls, breaking it down, we have 1 alarm, 2 suspicious persons, 1 abandoned auto, 1 call of gunfire, entering auto, a juvenile call, backed up fire and EMS, and 2 traffic stops that resulted in warnings. The gunfire call, we never found, somebody was shooting. We never actually, that one we never found out who was actually doing the shooting. But it was in an area where it would be legal to do it. So we weren't worried about that. Significant events or anything that happened for calls for service. On 315, Corporal Holloman assisted the fire and EMS and an elderly patient who had fallen in the creek beside his home on Cypress Cove over in Laurel Lakes. He'd fallen in some loose and muddy ground and got partially submerged, had a mild case of hypothermia, but he's okay. Got taken to the hospital for observation. And then Friday we escorted quite a large funeral procession up to Bethesda Baptist Church, and then later on they went, I forget where they went into Pickens, but they went into Pickens for graveside and interment, so that was a big one. And I want to thank you for coming out to the town hall meeting. Glad you enjoyed it. I'll be doing another one sometime in the fall. I'm not sure exactly when yet, but I'll let you know. Any questions on that?
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is unfinished business. First up is to discuss and if necessary vote on the liquidation of police vehicles and equipment.
Okay. Since the last meeting, we were able to get the assistance of a law enforcement agency in doing an inventory of our police equipment. I was surprised at the fact that what seemed like a lot was actually not. It was a lot of parts and pieces to a single piece of equipment, which are now all together, such as cameras for vehicles. Included with this is an inventory list, which I would like to go over with you. And there is also a depreciation schedule that included the values to the city as of June 30th, 2017, or the end of last fiscal year. Most of the equipment currently on hand has zeroed out or will by the end of this fiscal year, with the exception of the charger and the tag reader, which will both come in with very little value. The auditor was extremely busy and was unable to give me, and apologized greatly and profusely that she was unable to give me the updated numbers in time for the meeting. She's in the middle of that last tax crunch, crazy season going on. So what you'll see here is we kind of broke it down. For example, what was in safe 1. Some firearms, some ammunition, a pro laser, which is, I guess, for speed limits and things of that nature. We had some tasers, some badges, some duty belts, extra keys to the vehicle, an overhead camera system with the manual, and we have a couple of those. And I just want to stop for a moment on those. The problem with those is that they use CDs that you have to constantly replace and store in order to meet compliance with Open Records Act and Records Retention Act. Most agencies no longer use those. They use I guess it's like a little flash drive thing. It's a small thing in there that can record much more information and things like that. So basically what I'm getting at is that they're pretty much out of date. But we're looking to see if maybe perhaps there's a small agency that still uses this equipment, that it would be of benefit to them if they would be interested in something like that. Safe 2, we had some evidence which I have looked into. Still waiting to hear back on one of the things of evidence before we can properly dispose of it. The passport has already been mailed to the consulate. I tried to contact the owner of the wallet, which was from 2014, with no success. So I'm going to safely dispose of that as well. miscellaneous, I mean, what you're seeing here is pretty much binders, things like that. Like the binder with speed permits, we have to keep for records retention for so long, but a lot of it was just binders of stuff. For example, the Cherokee County binder that was, well, they might want it for a collectible item, but it's of no use to anybody at this point in time. It's way, way, way out of date, but it was fun to do anyway. We have a tactical vest carrier with plates inside. Now, the problem with that is our last police officer, Mr. Mark Reel, that was actually fitted for him. It's fitted specifically for him, but he left it because he didn't want any drama with some previous council members that were causing some issues, unfortunately. So really, I mean, I don't know what we're going to do with that unless we can find someone that has his same build. It's kind of one of those things.
Can I interject with that?
Sure.
If it's over 5 years old, it's expired.
Okay.
The Kevlar itself inside has an expiration date.
Okay, so I'll have to
So-
check on that. I think it's from 2015.
Then
We got
it might still be okay, but
Yeah. We'll have to
it
check.
does have an expiration date.
Okay. We have some radios with chargers, which the ones that work well, I want to keep for the city for emergency purposes. So that we can program it and, you know, if there's an Irma or if there's something, some kind of radio that we have for emergency purposes. And then we have what's in the Dodge Charger, which is the laptop, the camera system, the radio, everything that basically goes with the Charger.
Okay.
Like I said, the camera, the Watchdog camera system is one of those old, outdated kind of mute point situations that's in there. The other stuff, looking into, for example, attempting to separate the tag reader from the vehicle would not. I called the company just out of curiosity, and they said, if you're planning on getting rid of the car, get rid of the tag reader with the car, because in order to remove that, it's going to be a whole lot of money that you may not want to be invested. You know what I mean? These things are mounted and wired in such a way that it's not something you can just kind of pull a plug, pop it out, and roll it away.
Exactly.
So that's where we're at with that. And then we have little random things like the lights that were on the Tahoe. The Charger's lights are built in. We didn't get the ones that are magnetic on top. We purposely got the ones that were built in on that. And we have like a push bar left for the Crown Vic that goes on the Crown Vic. So that's what we're looking at. Most of it was, I mean, it was very overwhelming at first sight until you realize that a lot of it was just parts that were just kind of all over the place. I do have to say, and I have yet to come to solve this mystery, is that we have listed in the audit two body cams. We have found the boxes with the instructions and the mounts, and I have not found the body cam. We've hunted high and low, don't know where they went. Don't know if the body cam ferry came and got them, but they would have zeroed out at this point in time anyway.
How about guns? There was no guns?
Yes, there was. I listed that up here. I'm sorry. There are actually 2 Glock 22s. There is a Springfield M1A, and that is the gun that they bought to kill bears when we apparently had a bear problem. So that's in there too. And they are not registered specifically to the police department, they are registered to the city. So the city can use them as, you know,
Yeah, that's what
Lord knows if we have another bear situation or something, we're good to use them. I checked. Although I can be perfectly honest with you that I would not shoot the bear, I'd try to make friends with it first. But those are kind of what we're looking at. And I said, I would like to see us go ahead and make some decisions as to how we would wish to liquidate the equipment so that we can move forward. I have some residents that are like, I'll give you $500 for that Charger right now. No. With what we, and I checked into auctions, so with what we have, an auction will probably wind up costing us, more than likely cost us money, because they obviously get a percentage or of something of it, and the equipment being, most of it is just, it's outdated. So you wouldn't, we have to pay a fee and whatever have you, you know, it's the same way it works, like a fee.
An idea though, Tina looked into auction and like, for example, the Tahoe, it was a newer, so it was 2014 loaded, and it brought 9,000, you know.
And that was with
That was
all the
everything.
equipment, fully loaded, a police fleet vehicle, and they left everything in it,
Yeah.
and they got 9,000. But that was before they had to pay the auction fees or whatever have you, which is a percentage that I'm not quite sure of depending on the auction. Also, we could take bids, but we'd probably wind up spending more money advertising for bids than what we would bring in. When we tried to auction off, when we tried to do like advertising for the bids for the Crown Vic, for example, the highest bid we got didn't even cover the advertisement. I say this because honestly, a lot of our equipment was outdated when we purchased it, and it was new to us, in other words, but we purchased what we were able to afford at the time, but unfortunately wasn't updated technology, which would explain why we had a lot of problems communicating with other agencies when investigations needed to be done and stuff like that, because they were kind of ahead of us where we were, and were unable to communicate in terms of using what we had. Aside from this, whatever profit we do bring in has to go back to this SPLOST account from which it was purchased. And since we do not have a need for public safety at this time, it would just wind up sitting there. So if we make, and I'm just throwing a number out, let's say $500, that has to go right into whatever SPLOST account we purchased it from, and it has to go back to that public safety line item. So there it sits.
The other thing is when I checked with Tracy, Joe was the auditor, she did tell me that it would not negatively impact our budget or our audit. It would go, if we were to say donate it to Cherokee County, it would go to as a contribution.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
So in other
That's
words,
where I'd like to see it go.
Yeah, whatever SPLOST is bought out of that county should receive it, I think. If we can figure out what county it was bought.
It's Cherokee.
yeah, because Pickens has always been roads and streets. They, now remember, we're only in our second Pickens cycle. They started a little bit later than Cherokee, and it's been roads and streets. So,
And as far as the guns go, if you can get Jeff Dobson to auction them off, and they will bring good money. Just at his next auction.
yeah, well, we still have to find some of the parts.
Gen 1 and Gen 2 Glocks, they both bring in a lot.
$400 or $500 please.
For Gen 1 or Gen 2, they said they probably wouldn't bring in more than, because now we're in what, Gen 5, 4, 5? So he said the Gen 1s or 2s probably wouldn't bring in much money. The one's in pretty rough shape. The other one is in decent
I
shape.
ain't never seen them, but usually guns over the bag, but at an auction especially. You can check with Jeff.
Yeah, and that's something, the guns I'd like to see just for now to kind of hold off on and make sure, because I'm still out there reaching out and making sure that, you know, there's no, I mean, and none of our officers was involved in like a shooting or anything that I'm aware of to this point, okay? So, you know, in a case where that would be unnecessary for any type of investigation. But I will look into that as well.
Do we have enough information to vote on this, guys?
As far as the car and stuff goes, I don't
Car and the tag reader for the Dodge, the one with Dodge and the tag reader.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it comes from Cherokee County, that's who would be the buy.
That's right. I make a motion, we donate it back to Cherokee County.
Car and the tag reader.
Car and the tag reader.
Do you have a second?
I'll say it.
All in favor? Okay.
Who seconded that, I'm sorry?
Dave.
Now what about the Crown Vic? They said that they could use that for
Training.
pit maneuver training.
I had a priest recycle. That's probably about all it's good for. If they can use it, it's perfectly fine. with
Yeah,
it.
because they could use that for pit training without damaging any, I mean, because really, honestly,
Yeah.
that's about all it's good for. And I mean, or we could donate it to Pickens to use for the Jeep crush, but at least they'd be using it for. Do you want to make a motion on that too, or do you want to amend it, your motion to include the,
I'm in my motion to include the Crown Vic.
okay,
Okay.
you still say?
All in favor?
Yeah.
All right.
How you gonna drive 3 cars on that?
So we can get them off the insurance.
Yeah.
quick.
Yes.
Anything else on them? All right, next let's discuss and vote to accept the bid package for Cherokee Avenue Stormwater Drainage Project Phase 1.
Oh,
Well, do we need to take a break then, or all?
Yeah, or we need to do what our attorney says to do as far as all this goes.
I mean, we need to confirm that what you're accepting is the project that you bid out.
Yeah.
well, when the engineer, because the engineer, when I checked with them, they said that that it remained the same. And the
Okay,
engineer
but this-
also checked with them as well.
But this total bid number may be slightly higher based on, you know, the 550 feet.
The engineer gave them the option to change that, to submit a different thing, and they did not submit it. They opted not to submit a different number.
Okay.
So he said, you are aware that this is final, that this is going to be bid on, and they did accept it. They said that it was their error and not, because they did acknowledge in the packet that they received the amendment. They chose not to.
Well, then that's their
Yeah.
bid if they chose to not
Yeah.
update their bid in light of the
Mhm.
information.
And that was Contract Solutions? Which one was that?
The Gary Lance,
Yeah.
Contract solution.
yeah,
Yes.
contract solution.
Okay. So, okay. We'll go through it slowly and surely here because there's a lot of information. Since the last meeting, a lot has happened. We had a pre-bid meeting as well as a bid opening, and now all we are left with before we can get started is deciding on who to award the bid to. We received 3 bids for this project. I'm very happy with the process that we went through with this, and I'm very thankful to Mr. Holbert for his hard work on the bid packet. He left no stone unturned and has set a professional tone for how the city will operate when it comes to taking bids on projects. He has also informed me, and I wanted to review this to make sure that he was going to, once the bid is awarded, he will have a pre-construction meeting with the company that receives the bid, okay? He's going to go over everything with them again in great detail, any questions, concerns, alterations, walk the site with them again, because they all did walk the site at the pre-bid meeting. He's also going to routinely monitor and check progress, verify elevation, with such things like verifying elevations, and also very important is soil erosion. With any type of disruption of soil, especially in an area where we're already having flooding, that is definitely a top priority. So I have called all the references and I included a copy of the information with this and would like to take a moment to go through the results of my research. Basically, just very quick to summarize, and then we'll go into more detail. Millennium Excavation bid $39,100 with a completion time of 3 calendar weeks from notice to proceed with weather permitting. Corley Contractors, Inc. bid $67,618.66 with a completion time of 17 calendar weeks of acceptance bid. I did verify that. That is not days, that is weeks. Just wanted to make sure. Contracting Solutions bid $30,286 with a completion time of 4 calendar weeks from the acceptance of this bid. So if you turn to the next page, then you'll have to flip it open because it was legal, so I didn't quite have the room in here. This was the bid matrix that the engineer prepared, which kind of is an easy, quick glance at the 400 dead trees that fall behind that. We have all the bid packages were complete. They all met the city's insurance requirement. The next column is unit cost, broken down into per unit, as you can see here. Then we go over to base bid, and their initial bids wound up meeting their final bids. So in other words, what they bid, after verification from both the engineer and myself, the amount stayed the same, as you can see in the yellow column. Sometimes they will go ahead and change or alter or something. You know, like if we clarified for them, for example, and they said, oh no, wait a minute, we have to figure this out. They chose to keep the amount the same. There's some subcontractors listed here. Their estimated completion times, where their home offices are located. One of the things about government work is that it's, and I'm not even sure, I think it's unspoken, but it may actually be that you try to support local companies, home companies, to where you are. Of course, you're free to bid on whoever supplies you the best service. But, you know, it's one of those where they like to see cities kind of help local companies and build local companies instead of going, you know, all the way out. Even though, like I said, the option's open, that's just why that category was included in there. The name, the number, and comments in terms of references. With Contracting Solutions, they gave us 3 references. One of them did not come back, it didn't come back bad. And when I say that, it was, wait a minute, freeze, I'm sorry. Yes, okay, what it was this, that I don't know if they had a lot of projects going on and they you know, sent me the wrong reference. But when I called, the number that they gave me with the company that they gave me, they said that the gentleman that was listed as the contact does not work for that company, and in their records was unable to find that he had worked for that company. So I did email the company and called them and said, hey, you know, if you know, this is the situation, if you would care to provide me with another reference, I'll be glad to include that, you know. Because accidents happen. If you're working on a lot of projects, you may have a name mixed up with a company or whatever, you know. They chose not to come back with a 3rd reference on that. One thing, the Millennium Excavation, all their references came back good. The only thing is that as opposed to, and David, you pointed that out, is the yards, you know, in the terms of if rock is found. You have that pulled open, I'm not sure how that was worded. Instead of doing it per yard, they chose to do it a minimum and per hour. Which the engineer said that that's acceptable depending on, you know, some people work differently, that's up to us to judge. Now, the one company, Corley Contractors, 2 of their 3 references was good. The one with that excited me because when I had called their references, they worked for the city of, did a job for the city of White, Georgia. Same type of project, only they're a bit bigger, so it was on a bigger scale. The problem is that while they did quality work, they were supposed to have the project done, in my understanding, in approximately 3 months, and they finished it just shy of a year. The person said the problem seemed that they had subcontracted the project out and the company did not have enough people employed to do the work. So while it was quality, it went way over deadline. And that's the same company that also bid the 17 calendar weeks, which goes way past our deadline of July 31st. I know it's a lot to take in, but I included with the each of the bid packets, the front page, when I made the contact, who I made the contact with, and their comments.
So did we go through the 3rd package yet?
I went and described all the
Okay.
companies, but his sheet, and I know it's confusing, his sheet is a little bit differently than I have them placed. I have them in the order, with first being Millennium, second being Corley, and 3rd being Contracting Solutions. I believe he has them a little bit out of order on the sheet, but the information.
So this last one in the bid package is Contract Solutions, and they're the ones that's currently working in Jasper right now,
Right.
doing
They're doing the Revolutionary Church.
Revolution.
They're laying in, after the fact, 60 inch.
They're laying what?
60 inch.
They did not list that as one of their references. I was surprised. They didn't list anything local. Well,
They also did Popeyes, well, they done Popeyes now.
mm,
Has one vote? Take a vote on it. You have enough information to vote on?
Yeah, but if this is correct,
yeah, that's what they, I mean, they verified it and they had the option with both me last week and then again the engineer today to submit something different and they chose not to.
so they agreed on the 550 feet for that price.
Mhm.
I make a motion we accept Gary Lance at Contractor Solution, the cheapest bidder on the project.
I'll second.
Okay, who's gonna win this second?
Yeah.
Okay, Chad.
Very quiet.
Okay.
That's Contract Solutions. All in favor? Okay. Okay, brings us to discuss and if necessary vote on solutions to vehicles entering the nature trail and parking after hours.
Okay, at the last meeting, there was some discussion as to finding some sort of solution to people entering the nature trail parking lot after hours. This was brought about when a resident of the city voiced a complaint over the issue. So I researched putting up some sort of barrier, which is going to cost a substantial amount of money regardless on how we do that. The problem is that from what I have spoken to other cities, agencies that have done that same thing, if they really want to get around it, they're going to drive around it. An example of that is we found the poles, which were concrete, could be removed that go in that room, and they just tore the field up. They just drove wherever they could drive to get around those poles if they want to get back there bad enough. Not to mention the problem like with hours varying based upon when sun rises and sun sets. Doesn't seem like a viable idea for somebody to have to run out there, open it, close it, because people will complain if they're early risers and they want to go walk in the trail and no one's out there with the chickens to go ahead and open that when the sun rises. We looked at different alternatives, for example, concrete poles, gates, fences, and it seemed to be getting more and more expensive. Also, apparently, if someone cannot see it, for example, if there was a chain across there that was not visible to them and someone accidentally drove by it or drove through it, the city could actually apparently be liable for the repairs. As random as that may seem, there was a case out there where the person that ran through it won because they were not able to see the chain that was blocking off the area. So the city at the time had to pay for, not us, a different city, had to pay for the repairs to their vehicle. So signs were another alternative that I think makes the most sense. We have some small park rule signs posted, but I want to get some specifically for noting that the park closes at dark, and I also want to list the OCGA on it, so that when the police are called, they can arrest those who violate because the rules are clearly posted. I would post them around the park, included one by like the nature trail entrance, for example, on the Laurel Lake side, and then where the parking lot is, several, I'd probably get about 6 signs and just plaster them all over so that there's no excuse. They're clearly visible in various areas. And then those that choose to ignore them would then in turn pay the price. This is what most cities do because it's cost effective and it allows the police to take action when needed. It's clearly posted, and as a matter of fact, Lieutenant Simmons was kind enough to send me the OCGA that actually, so that I can go ahead and have the signs made with that listed on there specifically. So it's all spelled out in black and white. I just don't want to punish the good people because of a few bad people. I do check the camera regularly. There is cameras all over the park and at the nature trail parking lot back there. There might be a few here and there, but honestly, it's not a big of a problem as some make it. However, I agree it's good to be proactive when it comes to these things, and signs will allow us to do so. I've had people call and give me a vehicle description. Someone that has made frequent complaints about it, and they're like, oh, it was 2 o'clock in the morning and the car was blah, 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 and I pulled the video up and it was 8:15 in the evening and the vehicle matched the description perfectly, and it was still kind of daylight out. So, it's like I said, I don't want people back there, we can't control the world. I don't want, teenagers becoming young parents or anything at the risk of it. If they want to do it, they're going to do it. Let's just put it that way. But with the signs, I think specifically with that information on there, instead of one of the rules on the park saying, we're open from dusk till dawn, for example, or dawn to dusk, whatever have you, the signs specifically, and they make them big and shiny. They're about, about $30 a piece, and they're supposed to last at least 10 years, and that's in high traffic areas, so we can put them up, there we go. And then if there's an issue, people call 911, it's clearly posted. There's no excuse for that. So economically, I think, and most friendly for everybody would probably be to go ahead and purchase those signs.
I'll make a motion, we do that.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, now we come to new business. Let's discuss and vote on service delivery strategy for the city of Nelson to be included in the Pickens County document.
At the last meeting, I had mentioned that the service delivery strategy for the Pickens County side was due alongside the comprehensive plan. It's something that's redone every 10 years, but can be edited in between. It's a document made up of a bunch of smaller documents, and I included the draft here for you to review, that states who delivers what service and how. Upon review, I realized that we were not listed in a lot of areas where we should have been, and that we needed to be removed from some of the areas as well. The mayor and I met with the representative from the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission and went over all the documents in great detail. Basically, the state decided at some point in time that they wanted to, at the risk of sounding negative, they wanted to complicate things, so they required these extra, additional hoops and loopholes to be jumped through, which in a way is good because it does cover transparency. It does make us, more knowledgeable about what we do provide and what we don't provide. It makes it very easy for citizens to be able to look that up as well and keep us compliant. It kind of gives us checks and balances. It's just a process that unfortunately is sometimes more difficult than it should be. So what is included with this is a draft that will be submitted to the state for review and edits. The state will then send it back with their revisions and recommendations. We will vote on it again as a final version, which will then be official record. This is due June 30th, 2018, so the version we are submitting needs to be sent ASAP to give the state the needed time to review it. I do want to say that we were the first organization out of all of Pickens County to have ours completed and submitted, and the Regional Commission was very grateful for our quick actions. They were very appreciative of that, especially when you have to get a county and every city in it. Try to get it together because you can't submit a piece here and a piece there. It has to be submitted in totality to be accepted. So just to briefly go through this because it is very long, you'll see each one of these is broken down into separate categories. This shows local governments included in this. On the second page, Pickens County, Jasper, Nelson, and Talking Rock. Tate is unincorporated, so they don't have to fill this out. It includes things like 911, airport, animal control, coroner, courts, elections, and I mean, there's a long list of things here. I'm just kind of skipping through it. Tax assessor, tax commissioner, voter registration, public works, jail, library, forestry, the whole shebang there. And then there's several options where it's either the services provided countywide, services provided only in unincorporated portions, one or more cities provide this service only within their incorporated boundaries, one or more cities provide this service only within their incorporated boundaries, and the county provides service in unincorporated areas, and things like that. So, building inspection and all that. I don't remember exactly how many pages of it was. And if you want to go,
It was a good 2 hours.
yes. And that's only because I was well prepared and had taken my notes and was like bam, 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 bam. Otherwise, we probably would have been there about 8. I'd done my research well in advance. So you'll see at the very, toward the back, there's the certification. So Mayor Green would sign that and date that once it's finalized. So that's everybody you can see on here. For example, Town of Talking Rock, Mr. Randy Biggs, Mayor, Sylvia Green, Mayor, John Weaver, Mayor of Jasper, and then Rob Jones, Chairman, Board of Commissioners of Pickens County. And then in the back of that are 2 pretty colored land use maps that have to go with it. And this is service areas and things like that. And then the last sheet, when I told y'all I have bad tree karma, I was not kidding. But I wanted to make sure y'all had this, so you could, if not, refer back to it at a later time. There's a single sheet that's behind that that's listed as a service delivery strategy resolution. It's a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Nelson for the purpose of authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Pickens County and the cities of Jasper, Talking Rock, to adopt the 2018 service delivery strategy update and for other purposes. It breaks it down, so if you all, what we need to approve then is this resolution, in which case the mayor will sign it, I will attest to it, and it's basically saying here that we're adopt and certify the 2018 service delivery strategy updates as presented and authorizes said document to be submitted to the state for review and approval.
I know that was a lot, guys, but, so you're all familiar with the service delivery plan, and this is just where we went through and amended it. Like Tina said, there was a lot of stuff in here when we were working with Ms. Meadows that they either didn't have us down as providing that service to the city, or they had us down and we did not provide it. So we went through, we line item by line item for the service delivery plan with Pickens County and looked over every line item, and then, now we have a document that's 100% accurate. So,
I mean, because
that's
we
what
were
you're-
listed as having supply in a corner, and
Yeah.
no one's ever, I don't know, no,
Yeah,
it's not us.
Yeah, some changes since we no longer have a court, and things like that, so, or the police departments and things like that need to be changed. So
And
that's.
like I said, and the good news is that if we change, we just contact them and they submit a change form. It's a lot simpler because, as times change, we're going to change, and they're well aware that in 10 years, a lot of things can change. So we just let them know, contact them, we submit a similar form, we vote on it again, and it'll be, corrected. And the one, I was going to give you the last one, but it was really, really long. So if y'all want a copy, I'll be glad to email it to you.
I think it would just confuse, it would just be.
Yeah, see, they've streamlined it a lot since then. I mean, there was because before,
I have a copy here, if they want to look at it, with all
Yeah.
of our notes on it, so if you guys want to see that after the meeting, I do have.
I
it.
mean, you think the copy we have now is long, before it was about 3 times that long, because they were still doing that process and had to streamline it.
Thank you, James. But I do believe that it helped a lot having Ms. Meadows come in and facilitate that with Tina and myself and go through it in detail. And I believe we have a document now that's a good solid.
I make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
What about the building inspections and stuff here on page 2 of 2?
is that, now, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're building something on the Pickens County side, say in Nelson, does that mean Pickens County is gonna inspect it, or you get permits from them?
No, we have our own building inspector.
Well, so this, right here on the second page, services that are being revised. So this is everything with the city, you're talking about the city of Nelson right here? This whole list right here? Land development, law enforcement.
Oh, no, we don't do the whole list that's in the front. Those are just a list of all the services that they include. Like, okay, so you have this first page here that says Form 1, right? Are you talking about the one that comes after that says
Yeah.
services include? No, we don't do all those.
Where it says page 2 of 2 at the bottom.
202. Okay, so right here, the initial, under building inspections here,
Yeah,
it says one or more cities will provide this service within their incorporated boundaries, and the county will provide service in the unincorporated areas.
okay, that's all. I was looking for.
Yes, I'm sorry, so we do it within the city. Mhm.
All right.
The only thing that we don't do is septic, and that's done through the respective county that the property happens to be in through the Department of Health. They handle that for us, so.
Go ahead.
Were we unanimous on that, or did?
We are,
Okay.
yeah.
We are.
Just had one little question, but I'm good with that.
Oh, no, that's fine, thank you. It's good to ask questions, I'm sorry, I should have. I know it was a lot of information to take in, especially with you just being on in your
Yeah, I'm
first.
still green.
And the really fun part about this is we get to do it for 2 counties, not just one.
Yeah. Now we're going to look at we're going to discuss and vote on paying consultant to assist with the Cherokee County Service Delivery strategy negotiations.
Okay, so what we have here is, with Pickens, thank goodness, it went smoothly, and we didn't have any issues where there was a contradiction of services, amounts for services, anything like that. Then again, and I'll explain this in a minute, just as with Pickens County, we must also renew our service delivery strategy for Cherokee County, only instead of June, it's due in October. Fiscal years fall a little bit differently. I've met with the mayors and other city managers from the county, and due to some restructuring and inconsistencies, we thought it best to go ahead and hire a third-party consultant to help us with negotiations. We sent out letters to consulting firms that were recommended by the Georgia Municipal Association, and after reviewing credentials and interviewing, we decided to go with Brown Pelican Consulting. They specialize in government consulting and negotiations and things of that nature. When breaking down the fees, we decided to come up with the amounts based upon population. Due to the fact that we are split between 2 counties, I made sure that only those that live on the Cherokee County side were counted, which greatly reduced our costs. In light of everything that's going on and who's involved in this process, I feel that this is the wise thing to do. While most of the problems only affect the larger cities, it could eventually trickle down to us, so it is better to act now rather than later. Please understand that this is not in any way a negative thing, but rather a way for the fastest growing county in the state and the cities that are a part of it to come to some sort of agreement where all parties are satisfied and everyone's needs are met. This is not as easy to do with a county like Cherokee as it is with a county like Pickens, which is relatively small in size and population with very few cities. In saying this, I would have liked to have a consulting firm involved in that process as well, but no one else was interested. It's always better to be safe than sorry, but like I said, it was last minute, it was a rush, and no one fought anybody on the situation. So basically, if you turn to this next page here, the participating cities: Fall Ground, Canton, Holly Springs, Mountain Park, Nelson, Valeska, and Woodstock. We went by the 2010 population. As you can see the breakdown. The only one that zeroed out was Mountain Park because 25 people. I mean, they're mostly in, what is that, Forsyth County? I think they're part of. That they just have a wee little snippet couple houses over on the Cherokee County side. And you can see with the numbers, how they broke down the percentage and how the amount came up to pay that. So our total amount due would be the $142.65. So it's actually a minimal amount. This gentleman came highly recommended, works very well, is accustomed to working on this, and was one of the people that was involved fighting for municipalities when the House, I think it was House Bill, I don't remember the exact number, so I apologize, but House Bill something, that created this whole service delivery strategy in the first place. He was one of the attorneys that really represented the municipalities and made sure that when this was being created, the cities weren't being shortchanged in the whole process as well. That he made sure that we had voices in this process, where before, when it was originally written, the cities really didn't have a voice or a say in what was happening. The county dictated most of the process. It's interesting, more information than you might have needed.
So it's interesting that everybody is participating.
Yes, everybody's participating. I'm like, I need to clarify, because everyone's probably thinking, oh, no. It's just, when you have a county that, like I said, and Cherokee County is in fact the fastest growing county in the state of Georgia right now. You have a lot of cities with a lot more population, diversity, things like that, and issues that come into play with that. And they supply a lot of services, a ton of services that a lot of counties don't. So the more services, the more complex things get. And we just want to make sure that in the end, everything is fine and everything is good and there's no confusion or whatever have you.
Any questions? Any questions on it?
I make a motion we accept.
All in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Cheap price.
It is a very cheap price.
It was actually more, and I came back when they had submitted the numbers, and I was like, skirt, slow your roll, that's our total population. I said, this is for Cherokee County. And I went ahead and researched the number and came up with it and drastically reduced it. And they're like, we're glad you caught that because we didn't even think about it. And I was like, nope.
All right. Next is to vote on dates for the citywide dumpster days to take place this month.
All righty. Earth Day this year falls on Sunday, April 22nd. This is the month when states, counties, and cities take part in activities that promote cleaning up and taking care of the earth. The way that we have been doing this the past 2 years is by having the citywide dumpster days. Since having the dumpster available for weekdays as well as weekends was such a success when we did it back in January, my recommendation is that we have the dumpster ready for use by residents from April 21st, which is a Saturday, through April 29th, which is so it'll be 2 weekends and a whole week in between. That will cover, that way it'll give people plenty of time to bring all their good garbage and do their spring cleaning and things like that. And I already called the dumpster company that we use, and they said they're fine with that. Once it fills up, give them a call, they'll dump it, bring it back. They're good with that.
What was there some stuff that you can't put in there?
Yes, and that goes out on the informational letter. That you can't put, they said no body parts, no dead bodies, no mattresses, chemicals. Tires, paint, yeah. Batteries, yeah, anything that's kind of chemical, corrosive. The mattresses, because they do not break down in the dump, and they get charged extra money for that when they go to take those mattresses. And I'm also going to bring a list when I get it, because I think Pickens is doing tire recycling. So I'm going to try to get that information and put it on the letter as well when I send it out with sanitation, just to give people a heads up, hey, they're doing, if you have tires, we can't take them, but you can bring them up to so-and-so. Trying to create a document with that to send out with the trash bill, just to give everybody a heads up of what's going on. This has been a great success every time that we've done it. It's gone far in keeping our city cleaner. Residents are very thankful, and it costs a lot less than citing people for code violations. Most people want to clean up but are unable to take their unwanted items and trash all the way to the dump and paying the costly fees to have a company do it. Because you'll go on Facebook and someone will say, hey, I'll pick up your junk. And then they charge so much money that it's highway robbery. I mean, it's crazy. I will post the information in various areas around the city to get the word out, as well as send out the information with the sanitation bills. I am asking that the dates not be advertised so that we do not wind up with what happened last year, which was people from outside of the city filling the dumpsters. It was put in the paper under Keep Pickens Beautiful, and I had all of Pickens County in here. I had construction companies in here dumping their construction materials in the dumpster. I mean, I was like, I had to be dumpster ninja last year, just so that we had room in it for the residents, because they're like, well, you shouldn't put it in the paper, you know, blah, blah, blah. So they did agree not to go ahead and publish it this time around. But like I said in here, there will also be other events around the county for people to take advantage of, but I really want to help and keep this for our residents and taxpayers as a reward. Hey, you guys, you know, the city wants to help you, you know, help keep the city clean, help the individuals. We have a lot of older people that can't move stuff like that, you know. They want to, they're unable to. So I'm basically asking the council to vote to approve the citywide dumpster days from April 21st through April 29th.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second? Anybody second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, next, discuss and if necessary vote on advertising in the Pickens County official community map.
Okay. About this time last year, I had come to the council asking if they were willing to place an advertisement in the Pickens County Community Guide, and it was turned down. While I understand that we were in a time of rebuilding and we're unsure, I would like to ask that we take this opportunity. And I'm sorry, they're in the other room and I didn't grab them, but they're these beautiful color community guides, and I have to tell you that when we had the Marble Festival, when anybody comes in here to view the museum, they grab them things up. It's a listing, you know, with information. People love that kind of stuff. Our city was the only entity in the county that was, in Pickens County, that wasn't represented the last time. But like I said, we were in a fickle kind of adjustment period with the situation, so it was kind of scary at the time. However, when the like I said in here, I'm sorry, when the Marble Festival tours were coming through October, almost everyone picked up a copy of the community guide. The problem is that we had nothing in there to represent the city of Nelson. I want people to know about our city and its history. I want them to come through and visit and tell others to do the same. Advertising in the map is a way to get the word out and to do this. Every other agency in Pickens County participated in the past and is participating this time around. Even Talking Rock, Big Canoe, and Bentry are doing it. Now, unfortunately, the maps were sold out of print, which is why they have decided to go ahead. They normally would have done this more toward the fall. So just to give you all an idea, give me a second, because I'm never going to be able to fold this back up. And I'll leave it up here for everybody in the audience to see it. Just to give you an idea. It's a map. Here's Pickens County. We are way down here, and they actually included Winchester Oaks. It was accurate, because most people cut that land that we annexed off, they round it off, and Winchester Oaks is whoosh, nowhere to be found. So you'll see, like, agencies do it. Here's Pickens County down here, and then on the other side, you'll see that Jasper, and then we got, which one's this one? Bentry, and Big Canoe, and even Talking Rock has it in there with their little advertisements, but no Nelson. They said they tried to contact the city at the time the last one was big. They had no feedback. No one had gotten in touch with them or whatever. And just to show you something interesting, Bentry is actually bigger than Big Canoe. I didn't know that.
It is.
So, and I'll pass this around so everybody can see it. I wanted to have extras, but like I said, this was it. So I said, okay, well, if you want us to advertise in here, I said, then we want our own map, and I don't want to pay for it. I said, you know, I did a little bargaining chip. I was like, I think the city should have its own map in here, and if we put an advertisement in here, then you all will not charge us for the map, and they agreed. So we will have a Nelson-sized map, hopefully bigger than Bentry and Big Canoe, darn it, if they can fit us in here. And if you want to pass that around, or do you guys want to see it now?
Seeing it.
Okay, all right, so if you want to see that, just let everybody see that. And you might want to fold that up, because I'm not good at folding. So, I apologize that once again, that I was only able to obtain the one copy. I made it a stipulation that if we were to advertise, they would have to include a map of Nelson at no charge, and they did agree. They're also going to design the advertisement at no cost to the city as well. Normally, they charge they gotta get money somehow, right? So they'll let you submit something, or you can submit whatever, or, they're willing to design it for us. They're gonna include our seal, and if y'all want, we can have a pretty picture, we have the pretty picture put on there. It's up to your discretion, or if you want like a city picture, or a picture of the sign, or the Marble Museum. Someone came out and took some professional pictures of the Marble Museum that look really nice. There is money in the budget, and I still want to be conscious of spending, so I recommend the quarter panel, which, I'm sorry, I should have showed it in there. It's a little bit bigger than a business card. And it's the cost of $7.95. Now, it's good for 2 full years, and it covers both the print and online edition of this map. So if they go online and they click on our business card, it brings them to the City of Nelson website. They can get information and things like that. And it kind of shows you here what a full panel is, and a half a panel and a quarter panel. Like I said, it's an interactive map. I was talking, matter of fact, Michelle, who's the director of tourism at the Pickens County Chamber of Commerce, came by today. And she wanted to make sure I had at least a copy to present to you. She managed to find one that was kind of in a box hidden back there that I was able to use because they had sold out of them. But people like maps. A lot of people get the maps, they use them. We have a lot of people, RVers, they just get in their RV and they hit small little towns like us and they collect the maps. So it was ironic that the map was actually potentially more popular than the visitor's guide, depending. I look at it this way. We do it once. We don't get any positive feedback on it. Lesson learned, we don't do it again. We don't know unless we try. That's kind of where I'm at on that theory.
Anybody else want anything? James?
I think we need to do it. And just give her more exposure.
Chad?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
We try it one time.
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion.
I make a motion we do it.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Nathan, did you vote?
Yeah.
He did.
Okay.
He's quick.
He's quick. Let me show you.
He's quick and to the point.
This was it. Okay, next is to, we amended the agenda to add the property tax and interest, penalty and interest policy.
Upon reviewing the city's policies, Ms. Brunel and I realized that while we were charging the appropriate state mandated rates for property tax, penalties, and interest, thank goodness, our written policy had not been updated. It used to be that we could charge a 10% penalty with a 1% a month interest. The state changed that a couple of years back, 2016 I believe, with House Bill 960. We can now still charge the 10% penalty, but the interest now has to be the federal prime rate plus 3%, and the amount changes each January. This, just to give you an idea, we kind of put this year's equation out there. The amount changes yearly, so that needs to be accounted for and has been in the policy included with this. The next page, for your casual reading pleasure, is the delinquent tax interest and penalty changes, which came from the GMA website. And it just kind of breaks it down and explains the interest calculations and things of that for some light reading. And then behind that is an example of the policy that I wrote up, property tax penalties and interest policy. In the interest of being compliant with state mandates and codes, the City of Nelson will impose property tax penalties and interest according to House Bill 960. See information below. I listed the details and gave credit to where I got that information from as well. It was much easier than attempting to write it accurately. It's why reinvent the wheel. They wrote it great, to the point, accurately, and informative. I said this policy is in effect until the state requires that a change be made and in order that the City of Nelson be in compliance as is required by law. Good news is, y'all, we were doing it right, so we don't owe anybody any refunds. We did not, but it's important because when, people come in, like the auditor, for example, they may see, okay, this is what they charged and this is right. But then they ask for a copy of your policy. If your policy contradicts what you're actually doing, then it comes up as an audit finding, plain and simple. So we've decided to go ahead and get this out of the way.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Yes.
Was that slower?
It was a little bit. Darn it, you first though, it's not what. Okay, want to take a minute to go ahead and recognize any public appearance. Do you have anybody that would have anything to say tonight? All right. Then I move to have our executive session. We need to vote on that, I guess. This is the one we vote on, correct?
A motion
Okay,
to
I need a
adjourn to
motion
executive
To
session.
adjourn to executive session.
I'll second.
Discuss real estate and personnel.
I'll make a motion with move to executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you.